Hello, welcome back guys to another episode of Elder Scrolls Lore. Now before we begin today, I make a shout out to Ares' channel. It's where I get my music from. Feel free to check it out with the link in the description below, as well as the Discord chat. Feel free to join in the link in the description below or in the channel header. It's where we talk about gaming, lore, a bunch of other stuff. Feel free to join. And, well, we got the new lore series out. Dragon Age Lore is the new lore series out, right? It was fantastic to make. I am super excited to keep that going. So, stay tuned. It's going to be a bi-weekly show for now, and probably until at least I get more time. Don't really know yet. But today is this very interesting topic because it was something that came up with a few people I was having a conversation with. We're talking basically about Ulfric Stormcloak and basically how he's kind of this interesting character. He's kind of one-dimensional but kind of fleshed out. We really don't get a lot, but it really inspired me to take this into account and make another video about this. So today we're going to be discussing what would happen if Ulfric Stormcloak didn't kill High King Torygg, and instead decided to take a more peaceful approach or a more diplomatic approach to things. So with that, let us begin. So High King Torygg is kind of this complicated figure within Skyrim. He believes that the Empire is needed for the survival of Skyrim, and yet he somehow is able to sympathize with Ulfric Stormcloak, and we get this from Sibyl Centaur, who is his court wizard. She reveals that High King Torygg was able to sympathize, and that it was possible that if Ulfric were able to confront him peacefully about it, that he might have been able to be convinced to rebel against the Empire as well, or take a stand and force the Empire to make a decision. Now, at the time of 201 of the 4th era, this is what we're going to do. So we're going to... The Markarth incident all happens still. Everything that leads up to this is still going to happen. So basically, this story will take place in 201 of the 4th era. But essentially, instead of Ulfric going to Solitude to kill Torygg, we have Ulfric going to Solitude to confront Torygg and give him this kind of ultimatum. Now, Ulfric and Torygg are these two different characters. Now, Torygg is a politician of a sorts. He's been governing Skyrim. It's one thing to govern your hold, because obviously Ulfric is the Jarl of Windhelm, and he governs Windhelm pretty well. We know this because Skyrim is one of the prosperous holds before the Great War. It would be Skyrim and High Rock. Now, granted, at this point in time as well, the Empire is only 3 provinces. It's High Rock, Skyrim, and Cyrodiil. Now, it's difficult to say whether or not these two would have actually gotten along, but in this case, it's the hypothetical. They are. And so, basically, these two are different figures. Torygg is this politician, and he governs not only Solitude, but he governs Skyrim on a provincial level, and then is able to represent the Empire as well, or Skyrim through the Empire. So he has this national level of political thinking as well, something that I don't think Ulfric necessarily has, but vice versa. We do know that Ulfric is a very capable commander. He fought in the Great War. He was part of the militia that was in the Markarth incidents, so we know that Ulfric is a capable warrior. Now, this is what I think that Torygg is lacking. I don't think Torygg was old enough to participate in the Great War. We don't have any information that he did, and we do know that his father, Islad, did participate in the Great War as well. So it's assumed that I think Torygg was too young to participate in this sense, so he has to be a relatively younger figure, which makes sense why everyone calls him boy. I would assume at this point, because he had to have been alive during the Great War, but he was probably a child. He was in his either late 30s or early 40s, where I see Ulfric in his mid to later 50s, potentially, right? We don't really necessarily have an age, so it's kind of hard to say that. So let's just take this into account. We have Ulfric going in and approaching Torygg about the potential of ceding from the Empire. Now, in this scenario, I just cannot see Torygg being willing to completely abandon the Empire. He is able to recognize that the Dominion is a threat, and that they need the Empire in order to defeat the Dominion, that an independent Skyrim cannot necessarily do that. So he meets him halfway. So basically, they both have a common problem, and that would be the Thalmor presence in Skyrim. For Ulfric, it's the enforcing of Talos, and for Torygg, it's this constant threat that keeps bringing tension among the province of Skyrim. It's splitting up, it's creating divisions, it's pushing people into the idea of a civil war, something we've already seen with during the Great Moot, or during the Moots, where Ulfric kind of debated on whether or not to become independent from the rest of the Empire. So Torygg, in this sense, I believe, is the politician in this sense. He's governed Skyrim, he's governed the Hold, he's representing the Empire in this sense. I believe he has this politically based mindset that Ulfric lacks. So the Thalmor have 3 bases in Markarth. Technically 4, but I'm going to go with 3 for the sake of this video. They have the Justicar base in Markarth, that's in the Understone Keep, and then they have the Northwatch Keep, that's in northwestern Skyrim, and then they have the Thalmor Embassy. Now, I think Torygg would devise this plan to invite both Elenwen and Andalamar to Solitude for a feast to celebrate things, kind of like how we see there's a feast at the Thalmor Embassy. I believe this would happen in Solitude. This would be the best event here. It's here that the plan begins. So under orders from the High King, Jarl Igmund of Markarth would have his guards shadow Andalamar and his retinue of Justicars. Now, as the Reach is full of, obviously, Reachmen, the hope is that some of the Reachmen would eventually attack the Thalmor as they're passing by one of their bases, but if that doesn't happen, that's not the end of all things here. So Elenwen would come down from the Thalmor Embassy, obviously, and now, while a majority of the Thalmor are at Solitude for the feast, because obviously they're not going to travel by themselves, these big figures within the Thalmor. Now, this is where I'm going to see, because Tullius would not be here. The Skyrim Civil War isn't happening. Tullius would not be here. But Rikke would be. So, Rikke is a veteran of the Great War. She's probably still in Skyrim, and she was probably recruited to help serve the Empire during the Great War. So, vice versa. Rikke is going to be recruited here. Now, this is where the majority of the Thalmor are out. Ulfric will lead his host of guards from Windhelm to Northwatch Keep. Now Rikke, with a host of Harbinger guards, will then lead another host of guards to... Well, yeah, I already said that. Will lead another host to the Thalmor Embassy. These 2 bastions would be pretty difficult to defeat, but both Rikke and Ulfric are experienced battle commanders and veterans. So, in this case, I think Rikke would have the easier of the targets. The Thalmor Embassy would be significantly outmatched for a full, I would assume, a good maybe, like, I would say 35, 40 guards going up against 10 or so people. I could assume that would be very easy for Rikke to overwhelm. Ulfric having the more difficult challenge of taking on Northwatch Keep. It won't be weakened, it's pretty strongly garrisoned, but I think Ulfric is the more experienced and better commander in this situation, so I think Ulfric would have some difficulty, but would manage to take Northwatch Keep with relative ease. Now, I expect that both of these would succeed. Now, Jarl Igmund would also use his remaining guards to storm and kill the remaining Thalmor Justicars that are still in Markarth to basically eliminate any presence there. This eliminates all of the Thalmor bases within Skyrim. Now, I mentioned there was a 4th one. There is an unnamed building that is technically the Thalmor headquarters in Skyrim, but if you go in the building, it's completely empty. So, I'm not considering that part of this. So, as the feast continues, eventually Elenwen and Andalamar will want to leave. The feast will die down. They'll want to head back before it gets too late. So this is where the Markarth host that shadowed them will ambush Andalamar on the way back. And they'll blame the attack on the Forsworn. With Andalamar dead, the corpses can be dumped near a Forsworn base, and this will take most of the blame, if not all, off of Skyrim. Or off of the Torygg and Ulfric in this scenario. So the remaining Solitude Guard would link up with another force that would begin to shadow Elenwen, and then the force that's led by Rikke would ambush the Thalmor, and the shadowing group would cut off any sort of retreat. This would eliminate Elenwen and virtually eliminate all Thalmor presence in this scenario. with the Thalmor virtually gone, there obviously be agents here and there, Justicars that are on the roaming, that are out roaming Skyrim. They will most likely demand answers and compensation at the threat of war to the Empire. And now, this is where I'm gonna leave it to you guys to decide whether or not what will happen. Willing to stand with the Empire in the name of Talos, Ulfric is gonna support Torygg because he helped deal with the Dominion, and now they both have this kind of bond they have developed and shared through wiping out the Dominion in Skyrim. And vice versa, the Empire will be able to see that the Dominion were ousted from Skyrim and that stand with the Empire. So this is where it will come down to Titus Mead II. Now he has two options. He can either show that the Empire is weak by giving in to any of the Thalmor demands and potentially even kicking Skyrim out of the Empire like they did with Hammerfell, or the Empire can stand with Skyrim and the next Great War can begin. Now, whether or not the Dragon Crisis is happening at this time, the Dragonborn can still most likely handle the threat still, but there's just no Civil War questline this time. So, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that the Thalmor, or the Great War, the Second Great War will begin? Do you think that this is completely just bullshit and that Torygg would never go along with this? Do you think that Ulfric would never go along with this? Like I said, this is the idea, and this is just a concept that if Ulfric were to not rush into things and not assassinate Torygg, that they could potentially get along and potentially find another solution. We can see where things go. Obviously, this is a bit more of a radical solution, and the only reason this is a good theory for me, at least, is this is a good theory because it's interesting, right? It's definitely, it's not boring, you know. It's not, well, Ulfric confronts Torygg and they settle the differences of the debate and they go home their separate ways. This is something where I think both parties would be able to take action and significantly change the events in the history of Skyrim, but we don't see that because Torygg is dead and Ulfric is potentially dead or alive, depending on where you choose, and Skyrim's in a civil war. Well, that's where we have this. So I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. If you have any suggestions for future videos, let me know in the comments below. I have one recommended video I have to work on still, but other than that, that is about it. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like and subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace. Oh, remember, there's no video on Saturday. We're on once a week now, so I'm just saying that now. But I'll see you around. Peace.